Hi there. Welcome back to Reddit Confessions. Buckle up because this one doesn't start with a love story. It starts with an open suitcase and a locked door. She came home to silence. Not just the quiet kind you get when the dog's asleep and the TV's off. No, the unnerving kind of silence. The kind that hums in the walls and makes the hairs on your neck rise because something's off. She dropped her keys into the bowl by the door like she always did. Only this time, it didn't make a sound, because the bowl wasn't there anymore. She looked around. Her coat rack? Gone. The shoes she always tripped over because I never put them away? Gone. My slippers? The ugly ones with the duck print that she always said made me look like a grandpa? Gone. But not everything was missing. In fact, most of her stuff was still there. Her stack of unread fashion magazines. The bottle of wine I got her for our anniversary that she said she'd save for a special moment. Even her favorite blanket on the couch, the one she pretended was mine whenever guests visited. It was all there. What wasn't there was me. And it wasn't an accident. She called my name. Nothing. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge. All the food I'd prepped, gone. Her vegan hummus untouched. She laughed. Nervously. Said, "Okay, Carson. Very funny." But I wasn't hiding. I was moved out. While she was off drinking sangria on a girls' trip in Scottsdale. Pretending she was single for the weekend. I was home, packing my life into 4 boxes and a U-Haul. Quiet. Efficient. I didn't even slam the door. She checked her phone, probably expecting a sweet message or a welcome home meme. Instead, she saw a text. Bathroom mirror. She dropped her bag, walked down the hall, and there it was, in red dry erase marker, written in my handwriting. One sentence. I know what the girls' trip really was. Below that, I'd left something else. Her tablet, unlocked, with photos open, screenshots, videos, airdropped from her friend's Insta story before it vanished. One of her at the rooftop bar. One of her holding hands with a man in a leather jacket. One of them kissing, while she wore the necklace I gave her for Christmas. She had no idea I saw all of it. But I did. And the note next to the tablet said, "You were gone for 4 days. I'll be gone forever." She sat down on the edge of the tub and just stared at her reflection. But the mirror didn't show her. It showed the version of her she thought no one else would ever see. Too bad I saw it. And I was done pretending not to. She called me 5 times in under an hour. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She already knew why I was gone. And the longer the silence stretched, the more her imagination did what I never could. Make her feel something. I was halfway out of the state by the time her first voicemail came in. She didn't sound angry. Not yet. Not even confused. Just cautious. Like someone approaching a door they already suspect is booby-trapped. "Hey babe," she said, voice unnaturally sweet. Like she hadn't just come back from letting some guy rub sunscreen into her back while calling it a spiritual escape. "Can you call me? I don't know what's going on. I just got in. Everything's fine, I guess I just..." She trailed off and the message cut out. 3 minutes later came another. Then another. The tone kept shifting. Each one peeling away a layer of calm until the 4th message ended with her practically shouting, "Carson, if this is some stupid test or a tantrum, grow up and call me back." I parked on the side of a rural highway, under a dim rest stop sign buzzing with flies, and opened my messages. I clicked on her contact. Then I sent one thing. No words. Just the screenshot. The one of her in the bar, pressed up against some guy I'd never seen before, her eyes half-lidded, his hand gripping her waist, the timestamp right in the middle of her so-called wellness night. 10 seconds later, her name popped up on my screen again. This time I answered not to talk, just to listen. "Carson?" she asked, breathless. I didn't speak. "Listen," she said, rushing now, her voice wobbling between panic and performance. "It's not what it looks like, I swear. That guy, he's just someone we met at the bar. He was drunk. I wasn't even into it. It was just, you don't understand. Okay?" I stayed silent. She kept going, fumbling, reshaping her guilt like clay, trying to find the right shape that wouldn't make her look like the villain in her own story. It was one moment, Carson. I didn't even know someone took a picture. Why would you do this? Why would you leave? I finally spoke. Just 5 words. I already did. Goodbye, Darcy. Then I hung up. I turned the phone off. Not airplane mode. Not do not disturb. Off. Because the truth is, she never thought I would go through with it. She thought I'd simmer, maybe sulk for a night, then bring her flowers like I always did. She thought I'd be too weak to walk. But weakness isn't silence. Weakness isn't forgiveness. Weakness is staying when you know someone's already left you in every way but physically. And I was done being weak. By the time I got to my friend Zeke's cabin, the sun was barely hanging onto the edge of the trees. He met me in the driveway with 2 cold beers and didn't say a word. He didn't ask what happened. Just looked at me like someone who'd known the answer for months. We sat on the porch, the wind cutting through the trees, and I finally let myself exhale. Not because it was over, but because I had finally started something I should have done a long time ago. I didn't sleep that first night at Zeke's place. The cabin was quiet, surrounded by nothing but trees and frogs, and the kind of darkness that swallows you whole. I lay on the pull-out couch under a scratchy wool blanket, staring at the wooden ceiling, listening to the wind creak through the rafters, trying to replay every moment from the past year, trying to find the exact point where I stopped being a husband and became a backup plan. Zeke snored like a chainsaw in the other room. His dogs occasionally shuffled in their sleep, and every hour or so, my phone buzzed from where I'd buried it beneath a stack of clothes in my bag. I didn't check it. I didn't have to. I knew what would be waiting. Her panic. Her apologies. Probably a voice note with forced tears. Maybe even a selfie of her face all red and wet to prove she was crying. I'd seen her fake cry before. In high school plays, at family dinners when she didn't want to explain why she never called her mom. Even once when she forgot our anniversary and turned it around on me for not reminding her. But this wasn't just another fight. This wasn't fixable with brunch and shared Spotify playlists. I knew it. She knew it. And yet, she didn't stop. By the next morning, she'd sent 14 messages, called 9 times, left 3 voicemails, and, I kid you not, emailed me a Google Doc titled, "Please read." I didn't. I went out and chopped wood with Zeke for an hour just to keep my body from sinking back into that dangerous state of overthinking. I even smiled. For the first time in weeks, my face actually moved without effort. We grilled lunch outside, laughed about nothing, and for a brief moment, I thought, maybe this will be it. Maybe I'll stay out here for good. Reset. Rebuild. Just disappear. And then, right around 5:40 p.m., a silver SUV pulled into the gravel driveway. At first, I thought it was one of Zeke's friends. But then the door opened and Darcy stepped out. Hair still styled from her trip. Sunglasses pushed up on her head. Wearing the cardigan I bought her in Boston. Like she thought it might somehow protect her from what she'd done. She didn't look angry. Or embarrassed. She looked determined. And in her hand, she held a manila envelope. Zeke stepped forward like he might say something, but I raised a hand. I didn't need him to interfere. She walked up the steps slowly, like she was entering a courtroom. "I'm not here to fight," she said quietly. I didn't respond, just stared at her, trying to feel something, anything, that resembled the old version of us. "I just need you to read this," she said, holding out the envelope. "What is it?" I asked, finally speaking. "Proof." I laughed. Not out of humor, out of exhaustion. Proof of what? That you can't keep your hands off strangers when your ring's still on your finger? Her face twitched, but she held firm. Proof that there's more to the story. I took it from her, more curious than hopeful. She turned to leave, but then she paused at the steps. "I know I don't deserve anything from you," she said. "But I swear on everything, that trip wasn't what it looked like. I screwed up, yeah, but not in the way you think." And then she left, just like that, back into the car. Gone. I didn't open the envelope right away. I just sat with it in my lap, feeling its weight like it might burst open and ruin me all over again. Zeke watched from the porch, not saying a word. After a full hour of staring at it like it was ticking, I finally tore it open. Inside were two things. A printed email thread between her and someone named Devin A., dated weeks before the trip, and a folded photograph, not digital, not filtered, of Darcy sitting on a beach, looking out at the water. Alone. No man. No bar. No smile. Just her. And suddenly, 1,000 questions exploded in my head all at once. Because nothing was adding up anymore. I didn't sleep again that night. Not because I was heartbroken. Not because I missed her. But because the envelope she left me broke something inside I didn't know still had cracks. You know that feeling when the truth shows up too late? Like someone handing you the correct answer after you already turned in the test, and all it does is remind you how much you didn't know? That's what reading the email felt like. It started harmless enough. A thread between Darcy and someone named Devin A. Turns out Devin wasn't a guy. She was a grief counselor. Apparently one Darcy had been emailing for almost 3 months behind my back. And not because she was hiding an affair. Because she was hiding how much she hated herself. The first message was short, dated a week after our last big argument, the one where I accused her of checking out of our marriage. She wrote, "I know I'm the one failing here. I don't expect you to fix me. I just need someone to tell me I'm not already beyond repair." My hands actually started shaking. Message after message, I read Darcy spiraling into some version of herself I never saw, or maybe refused to see. She talked about waking up every day feeling like she was trapped in a role she no longer remembered auditioning for. She wrote about the guilt of pretending to be present when she wasn't. About the nights she lay next to me, wondering how I could still love her when she didn't even recognize herself in the mirror. And then came the one that really ruined me. Carson deserves better. But I'm scared to tell him I'm unraveling. I'm scared he'll finally believe he wasted his love on someone who never knew how to hold it properly. I put the papers down, not because I couldn't read more, but because I realized something that cut deeper than any cheating ever could. She didn't betray me with another man. She betrayed me by shutting me out of her worst days and then letting strangers see her at her most alive. She let them see her messy, her wild, her broken. She handed them the unfiltered pieces of herself while I got the polished silence. I thought she didn't care. But the truth? She cared so much it crushed her. And instead of telling me, she went on that trip to escape the version of herself she thought she had to be around me. The photo she left in the envelope wasn't random. It was taken by Devin. Apparently they met in person that same weekend. It was part of some therapeutic retreat for women trying to rewire their self-worth. A silent beach meditation. A moment of clarity. The trip wasn't a party like I'd assumed. Not entirely. But that didn't explain the bar photo, or the man, or the caption about her vacation boyfriend. And I kept coming back to that. Why the photo? Why the hand on her waist? Why the damn smirk? So I broke my rule. I turned my phone back on. 241 unread notifications. Mostly from her. Some from mutual friends. One from my boss who apparently saw some cryptic post she made online. But then, I saw one from her friend Cambria. Cambria never liked me. Too loud. Too fake. Always treating our relationship like it was some sitcom she was narrating behind my back. She'd sent me a video. No text. Just a video file. I hesitated. I almost deleted it. But something in my gut told me this was the missing piece. I watched it, and I swear, I forgot how to breathe halfway through. It was from the rooftop bar, the same night the infamous photo was taken. Darcy was dancing, laughing, a little tipsy, maybe more than a little. The guy? He wasn't flirting with her. He was flirting with Cambria, and Darcy had jokingly stepped between them to tease her. She laughed, posed, sat in his lap like it was a dare, and then shouted, "Take the pic. Carson's gonna freak out." Everyone laughed. It was a joke. A cruel one. Tone-deaf one. But not a betrayal. And suddenly I realized, I'd left. I'd walked out. I'd burned everything down. Because of a joke. I didn't even know what to feel anymore. My chest hurt in this dull, slow-burning way that no scream could fix. Because now I wasn't just humiliated. I was lost. What do you do when your reason for leaving turns out to be built on something real, but deeply misunderstood? Do you go back? Or does that just make you the punchline all over again? I didn't eat for nearly a day. After watching that video, after realizing the moment I'd used to justify walking out of my life was built on a drunken joke and a split-second snapshot, I just sat there, the envelope still open, my phone screen dark, the echo of Darcy's voice still bouncing around in my head. I should have felt relief. That she hadn't cheated. That maybe I wasn't a fool for loving her. But I didn't. What I felt was something uglier. Something heavier. Regret. Not for leaving, but for how easy it was for me to believe the worst about her. What kind of husband does that? What kind of man moves out, drops a theatrical note on the mirror, disappears without a conversation, just because of a picture he saw without context? A coward. That's who. I thought I was proving I had a backbone, that I was finally standing up for myself. But in reality, I just quit. I didn't ask her anything. I didn't look her in the eye. I didn't give her the same grace I would have given a stranger. And now, sitting in Zeke's cabin with no job, no direction, and the slow realization that I might have detonated a marriage that was salvageable, all I could think was, maybe I deserved to be alone. By noon the next day, I finally caved. I opened my phone. Her messages were still there. Some desperate, some cold, some even angry. She went through the entire emotional cycle in real time while I hid out like a man dodging a storm of his own making. I typed out a message, deleted it, typed again, stared at the blinking cursor until it felt like it was mocking me. Eventually, I just wrote, I saw the video. I don't know what to say. I hovered over send. But something told me to wait. Something in my gut, the same instinct that once told me to trust her, then told me not to, now whispered something else. Check her socials. I hadn't looked once since I left. Not even when I thought she was lying to everyone. I opened her Instagram, already expecting tears, sad quotes, maybe a selfie with some long caption about healing. But that's not what I found. What I found was a photo of Darcy, smiling, at brunch, with another man. It was taken just hours ago. The sunlight made that clear. Her hand rested near his, her head tilted toward his shoulder. There was no kiss, no embrace, nothing explicitly romantic. But the way she looked at him, it wasn't confused or broken. It was soft. And for the first time, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. The caption, moving forward, for real this time. There were no tags, no location, no explanation. But I didn't need one. I just sat there, the same way I had the first time I saw the rooftop photo, but now the feeling was completely different. Not betrayal. Replacement. She wasn't waiting for me. Not anymore. And maybe she never really had been. Because while I was busy spiraling in self-pity and confusion, Darcy had already started rewriting her story. One that didn't include me anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the app, put my phone face down, and whispered out loud, "You didn't even call to say goodbye." But maybe that was the answer I needed all along. I told myself I wasn't going to go there. Not physically. Not emotionally. I told myself I would be the bigger person. That I'd stay away and let her rebuild her life, however quickly she decided to do it. But we both know I was never good at that. Walking away might have looked strong in the mirror that morning she came back to an empty house. But truthfully, I'd been spiraling ever since. So I drove back. Not because I had a plan. Not because I was hoping for some dramatic reunion or a grand apology. I just needed to see it. See her. See if the woman I fell in love with still existed under all this rubble. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Her apartment was just 10 minutes from the place we used to share, the one I left without warning. I hadn't been back in the city since the day I moved out. Everything felt smaller. The roads, the cafes, even the apartment buildings I once thought were towering. Now they felt like props in a show I'd been kicked out of. I parked down the street and stared at her building for a full 10 minutes. Hands clenched on the wheel, trying to talk myself into leaving. But the longer I waited, the more my heart started pounding in that reckless, restless way that only happens when something big is coming. And you already know you can't stop it. I walked up the stairs. Same potted plants by the railing. Same chipped paint on the second step she always warned guests about. I stood outside her door and listened. No music. No voices. Just the soft hum of the building. I knocked. Once. Twice. No answer. I was about to turn away when I heard the deadbolt click. The door opened just enough for her face to appear. Tired, makeup-free, hoodie pulled over her head. Not cold. Not surprised. Just quiet. We stared at each other for a moment that felt like a movie scene gone wrong. Like the soundtrack had cut out, leaving only the awkward breathing and everything unspoken hanging in the air. "Hi," I said, my voice embarrassingly weak. She didn't say it back. She just opened the door wider and stepped aside. The place was different. New furniture. Different color scheme. Her signature chaos replaced by something clinical and clean. No candles. No throw pillows. No coffee mugs left beside the couch. It felt like a hotel room someone had only just started to inhabit. I didn't sit. She didn't offer. Instead, she folded her arms and leaned against the kitchen island. Her eyes guarded but not hostile. "You shouldn't be here," she finally said. "I know," I replied. A long silence. Then I asked it, the question I didn't want to say out loud but couldn't hold back anymore. "Is it true? Are you with someone else?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Why do you care?" "I just need to know." She sighed, walked to the couch, sat down, back straight, legs crossed, like she was trying to keep herself from unraveling in front of me. "I was alone for 4 days," she said. "I cried. I screamed into pillows. I cursed your name. I texted you more times than I care to admit. I even drove to your friend Zeke's and sat outside like a lunatic for an hour hoping I'd catch you coming or going. You didn't answer. You didn't call. You didn't give me a chance to explain anything. And after all that, after all the begging and silence and confusion," she paused. "I stopped waiting. It hit me like a gut punch. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. Brutally so." She continued, "I'm not with anyone. Not seriously. But yeah, I went on a date. Just one. With a guy who knew I wasn't ready for anything and didn't ask for more than an hour of my time. He didn't lie to me. He didn't walk out without a word. He didn't treat me like a villain in a story he wrote without asking for my side." I swallowed hard. "You think I wanted to move on?" she asked. "You think I woke up one morning and decided you weren't worth it?" She shook her head. "No. But when someone disappears like you did, when they decide that a joke in a video is proof enough to destroy everything, you start to believe maybe they weren't really in it the way you thought they were." I sat down across from her, suddenly feeling smaller than I ever had. "I thought I was protecting myself," I said, barely above a whisper. "Maybe you were," she said. "But in doing that, you made sure I had nothing left to protect." The words clung to the air between us like smoke. And then she said the one thing I didn't expect. "I left something for you, in the drawer by the door." She stood, walked back into the kitchen, and didn't look at me again. I opened the drawer. Inside was a letter, handwritten, folded twice. On the front it said, "For when you finally stop running." I didn't open it there. I didn't even say goodbye. I just walked out, holding that letter like it was radioactive, not knowing that what was written inside would destroy whatever was left of the version of myself I thought I knew. I waited until I was parked in a grocery store parking lot on the edge of town. Engine still running, headlights aimed blankly at a brick wall. The letter sat in the passenger seat like it was staring at me, challenging me. My palms were sweating, the air conditioning humming, but the car still felt like it was closing in around me. I don't know what I was expecting. A final apology? A list of everything she blamed me for? Maybe something venomous, maybe something that would make walking away easier. But what I read was something else entirely. Started simply, "You never saw me." Not really. Those 6 words hit harder than any insult ever could. I read them twice before continuing, unsure whether I wanted to keep going, but knowing I couldn't stop now. "You saw the version of me you needed. The calm one. The caretaker. The woman who wore your favorite sweaters and watched your favorite shows and smiled through your silences. I loved being that for you, for a while. But I stopped existing in that picture. You didn't even notice." Already, my chest was tightening. She wasn't angry. That's what made it worse. There was no bitterness in her writing. Just a sadness that read like someone who had finally accepted the ending long before I even saw it coming. The night you left, I stared at that mirror for hours. I thought maybe if I cleaned the message off, the pain would leave with it. But it didn't. You didn't just leave me, Carson. You erased yourself. And I had to accept that you were already gone before I ever packed a bag. But then the letter took a turn. There's something I never told you. Something I wanted to say 1,000 times. But I thought it would make you leave faster. I thought it would make you hate me. Maybe it still will. But I can't carry it anymore. My hands gripped the paper tighter. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew it was going to undo me. I could already feel it. 6 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. My heart stopped. It wasn't planned. I hadn't even told anyone yet. I wasn't sure I was ready to be a mom, but I was even less sure about telling you. I didn't know how to, not because I didn't trust you, but because I didn't trust myself to hold it all together if you didn't react the way I hoped. I read that paragraph 5 times. Pregnant. Darcy had been pregnant, and I didn't even notice. I was scared. I was overwhelmed, and I was angry at myself for being scared. I told myself I'd wait for the right moment, but it never came. Then the bleeding started, and the pain, and just like that, it was over. I lost it before I ever really had it. I felt tears in my eyes and didn't even try to blink them away. That's why I went to Devon. Not for some girl's retreat. Not for a spiritual recharge. I was grieving a life I never got to meet, and I couldn't even tell the one person I wanted to lean on. Because you were already looking past me like I'd become wallpaper. My mouth was dry. I didn't move. Couldn't. I just let her words sink into me like glass. You walked out thinking I was someone I'm not. And I didn't stop you, because maybe you needed to believe I was the villain to justify the ending. Maybe you needed to be the one who ran so you wouldn't have to look at how long I'd been sitting in silence, waiting for you to notice. And finally, she ended it with, if there's a version of you out there that can forgive me, for not telling you, for not being perfect, for not surviving the pain better, I hope he's happier than the one who left. But I won't wait for him anymore. Take care, Carson. Truly. Darcy. I don't know how long I sat there. The engine eventually died. My phone buzzed, but I didn't check it. Cars pulled in and out around me. The world kept spinning. And I just sat, letter in hand, grieving not just the child we never had, but the version of myself I thought I was, the husband I thought I'd been, the man who thought he was the one who got hurt first. But in reality, I had no idea how far gone she already was, or how much she had buried before I ever packed that suitcase. I didn't go home that night. I drove around aimlessly, down old roads and side streets, past places we used to go together. The bookstore with the crooked shelves, the little bakery that made cupcakes she always said were too sweet but perfect, the coffee shop where we used to sit on rainy days and pretend we didn't have bills or responsibilities. All of them were just pieces of a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. I had her letter folded in my back pocket. It felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. And yet somehow, it gave me clarity. She hadn't been cruel. She hadn't cheated. She hadn't given up. She'd simply been hurting quietly while I stood next to her, too busy reading between the lines to realize she was already writing a new chapter on her own. That realization didn't break me. It humbled me. The next morning, I did something I wasn't sure I had the right to do. I went back to her place. No grand gesture. No flowers. No speech. Just me, standing in the hallway again, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I knocked once. Then again. The door opened slowly. Darcy stood there in pajama pants and a t-shirt that still had a tiny stain from the curry I made her on her birthday last year. Her hair was messy. She had no makeup on. But her eyes, they weren't angry anymore. They were just tired, cautious, like someone who'd built a fence around their heart and was waiting to see if I'd climb it or walk away. I took a breath. I read it, I said. All of it. She didn't answer, just waited. I don't want to explain what I did. Not right now. I just want to say this. I'm sorry, not just for leaving, but for making you carry everything alone. For not seeing you when you needed me most. I don't deserve anything from you, Darcy. But if there's still a door between us that isn't locked. I trailed off. She didn't speak. She just stepped aside. I walked in, and for the first time in months, we didn't argue. We didn't unpack the past. We didn't dissect every moment like lawyers in a courtroom. We sat on the floor with coffee, knees touching, and just talked. About the letter, about the loss, about the version of us that died somewhere in the silence, and the one that might still be breathing beneath the ashes. We're not fixed. We're not suddenly perfect. But we're talking now, really talking. And for the first time in a long time, it doesn't feel like we're dragging the past behind us. It feels like we're slowly learning how to be present, one honest word at a time. Some things don't need dramatic endings. Sometimes the most powerful thing is just showing up. After everything. And I did. So did she. And we're still here. If the story moved you, or reminded you of a moment when you misunderstood someone you loved, or even if you were the one who waited in silence, drop your story in the comments. We want to hear your moments of heartbreak, honesty, or healing. You're not alone. Not here and not on Reddit Confessions. Speech Balloon. Until next time.